Hello and welcome to the Target UPSC Prelims 2025 Current Affairs Revision Series, and this is the second episode of Science and Technology. So if you haven't watched the first episode of Science and Technology, you can go on to the playlist section and can watch the first episode. And there are other subjects also that we have covered, like for example, economy, environment and ecology, polity, art and culture, and then science and technology. So let us first begin it. And the first news is the development of polio vaccines. And the polio was in news recently because the cases of polio has come up in the areas of Afghanistan and Pakistan. So first of all, what is polio? So polio is also known by the name of poliomyelitis, and it is a very infectious disease and it is a viral disease. And it mainly affects children below the age of 5 years. And according to the World Health Organization, the virus is transmitted from person to person and mainly through the fecal oral route. Fecal oral route means that the feces of the infected person, it gets transmitted to the uninfected or the normal person. Then if we talk about the strains, then there are 3 types of polio virus strains. So that is basically P1, P2 and P3. Then P2, the P2 strain was eradicated globally in the year 1999. And if we talk about the when did India attain the polio free status? So that was in the year 2014. So in the year 2014, India attained the polio free status after India successfully eliminated, apart from the P2 strain, India also eliminated the P1 and the P3 strains. Now if we talk about the vaccination schedule, so there are different types of vaccines. There are oral vaccine, then there is inactivated vaccine also. So OPV, which is the oral vaccine, so that is at 6 weeks, 10 weeks and 14 weeks. Then there is IPV, which is the inactivated poliovirus vaccine, so that is 6 weeks and 14 weeks. Then there is OPV booster between 16 and 24 months. So this is with regard to the vaccination schedule of polio. So the wild polio virus is beginning to reappear in big cities in Afghanistan and Pakistan due to the vaccine hesitancy, misinformation, conflict, poverty and the limited access to these isolated regions. So people, because they are not taking vaccine and there is hesitancy with regard to taking vaccine, and also as the region of Pakistan and Afghanistan is not performing well and is also crippled with poverty, the number of cases are increasing. And the World Health Organization Global Polio Eradication Initiative is set to miss its deadline of eradicating polio by the year 2026. So the target year was 2026, but it will not be met. Then the two vaccines, namely that is IPV and the OPV. So IPV is the inactivated polio virus and the OPV is the oral polio virus. They have helped in the eradication of polio. Now if we talk about the inactivated polio virus, so what happens is that the living strain of the virus is put into it, but the power of the virus is either very low, the virus is very weak, or it is in an inactivated form. But in the next, that is the oral polio vaccine. The oral polio vaccine, the virus which is put is in a live form. Now key facts about polio. Polio, the other name is, or you can say the scientific name is the poliomyelitis. It is a highly infectious viral disease that you should remember, whether it is a viral disease, bacterial disease or a protozoan disease, then it is a viral disease. Then it enters the body through the mouth, multiplying in the intestine before invading the nervous system. So the polio virus basically affects the nervous system of a person, impacting its brain and spinal cord. Then it mainly affects children under 5 years of age. Then the incubation period for polio virus is usually 7 to 10 days, but it can range from 4 to 35 days also. When we say incubation period, it means that the period between the virus has entered the body and the virus starts to show symptoms. Then initially symptoms of poliovirus infection include fever, fatigue, headache, vomiting, stiffness in the neck and pain in the limbs. So these are few of the symptoms of polio. Jones-Salk has developed the first successful polio vaccine. So the first successful polio vaccine was developed by John Salk, and about Albert Sabin, who developed the OPV, which contained the live weakened poliovirus strain that was administered orally. Now, OPV and IPV are the two vaccines which has helped in the eradication of the polio. And if we talk about India, then India has already attained the polio free tag. Measures taken to eradicate polio, first and foremost, is the Global Polio Eradication Initiative launched in the year 1988 by the national governments, and it was spearheaded by the WHO, Rotary International, United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the United Nations Children's Fund. Important point, because the initiatives are basically asked in the examination and specifically with regard to the mains examination. Then comes the World Polio Day. So when is the World Polio Day celebrated? So that is 24th of October, and this is basically has been done with regard to raising awareness with polio. Now if we talk about in India, so India main initiatives that has been taken by the government, so first and foremost is the Pulse Polio program, then intensified mission Indradhanush 2.0. So that is basically reaching out to the unvaccinated people, children or the pregnant women, and giving them vaccine. Then comes the Universal Immunization Program, that is UIP. So it talks about that it was launched in the year 1985 with the modification to expanded program of immunization. Now the second topic is India AI mission. So the India AI mission, Gates Foundation to sign MOU on artificial intelligence in agriculture and healthcare. So the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has allocated around 551 crore rupees in the union budget of 2024 and 25 to enhance the artificial intelligence infrastructure in India with regard to the procurement of the high performance graphic processing unit, so that the speed at which the AI data can be stored becomes fast. Then this move aims to support domestic AI development and reduce reliance on expensive foreign hardware, so that the foreign hardware need not be bought from outside, and with regard to increasing better artificial intelligence infrastructure, things can be done within the country. Now about the India AI mission. So that is, the mission aims to establish a robust AI computing infrastructure in India, as the future is about the artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is a specialized aspect and a specialized area. So better and more capital is required for building the infrastructure with regard to the artificial intelligence, and the high range of technology will also be involved under it. Then the Union Cabinet has approved rupees 10,372 crore AI India mission, and this is to establish a computing capacity of over 10,000 GPU, that is the graphic processing units, to develop foundational models with a capacity of more than 100 billion parameters trained on datasets covering major Indian languages. So the basic aim is to develop our infrastructure that can move towards, or that can include the overall AI aspect of the country, and can work in an inclusive manner with regard to the betterment of the society, and can help in solving the problems of the people, and the artificial intelligence benefits can also reach the last mile. Then the next topic is the 30-meter telescope, that is TMT. So what is 30-meter telescope and why is it significant for India? So recently the Indian researchers at the IISc Bengaluru, they have developed a new online tool. So a new online tool has been developed to create a comprehensive star catalog, and this is for the adaptive optics system of the upcoming 30-meter telescope. So of the 30-meter telescope, adaptive optics system, an online tool has been developed. Now the key features of the 30-meter telescope. So that is, it is an ambitious international project coming up at Mauna Kea in Hawaii. And it involves India, US, Canada, China and Japan. So you can say that all the technologically advanced countries are involved in it: India, US, Canada, China and Japan. Aim is that to advance the understanding of the universe significantly, and also to be able to find things which can be helpful in taking out information with regard to the universe which has never found before. And the TMT is a next generation astronomical observatory. It is an astronomical observatory, and it is designed to provide unprecedented resolution and sensitivity with its massive 30-meter primary mirror. So the mirror which is used in the telescope is 30 meter, and the name is also 30-meter telescope. So that is on the size of the mirror that is used within the telescope. Then the TMT, the Giant Magellan Telescope and the European Southern Observatory, extremely large telescope, represent the future of ground-based astronomy. So it is not that the 30-meter telescope is the only big and the more advanced telescope. The other telescopes are also being made by other countries. Then the primary goal is to study the early universe and the formation and evolution of the first galaxies and stars after the Big Bang. So how the evolution of the universe has taken place. Investigate the formation, structure and evolution of galaxies across the cosmic time. So it is basically to understand that how the evolution of life has taken place, how the evolution of planets and Earth have taken place, and how things have moved over the years, and to be able to gather information which has not been found earlier, and to do a well research. A good and a deep and a well research on those aspects can be done with the help of the information which the scientists can get from the 30-meter telescope. Other similar projects India is part of, so that is CERN, that is the European Council for Nuclear Research. So it is the project of the God's particle. Now CMS is one of the experiments that discovered the Higgs boson particle, also known as the God's particle. Then the International Facility for Antiproton and Ion Research, popularly known as FAIR, F-A-I-R. So that is studying the building blocks of matter and the evolution of the universe. Then comes the next topic, and that is India's space launch vehicle supply and demand challenges. So it says that the demand and supply is very unmatched in ISRO, because the satellites that needs to be sent is less as compared to the rockets that is available. So recently the chairman of ISRO, that is the Indian Space Research Organization, the only space organization of India, it stated that ISRO's launch vehicle capabilities was 3 times the demand. It means the demand is less while the launch vehicle capacity is more. It means that the rockets are more as compared to the satellites that it can take to the orbit. So this statement has sparked discussions among experts that how the demand and the supply inefficiency is there. Now let us talk about India's current launch vehicle landscape. So what all are different types of rockets that ISRO possess? So that is, first is the SSLV, that is the small satellite launch vehicle. So it is designed for launching the small payloads. Then come the PSLV, that is the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, popularly known as the workhorse of ISRO, because it is the rocket which has taken the maximum number of satellites into the orbit, and it is versatile in its nature, and it can take the Earth observation satellite, geostationary satellite, navigation payloads, and it is also known for its high success rate. Then comes the next, and that is GSLV, that is the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. So it is used for heavier payloads, and particularly the payloads which weighs much above 2 tons. Communication satellites are also taken by the GSLV. Then comes next, and that is the LVM-3, which is the Launch Vehicle Mark III. So it is capable of launching even heavier payloads, like for example payloads up to 4 ton class. So the communication satellites also comes under it, and the low earth orbit payloads also comes under it. Now next topic is the astronauts stuck in ISS, that is the International Space Station. So the Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams have been brought back on Earth. So NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams have returned to Earth after a long 286-day mission, and they came back from the ISS, that is the International Space Station, and it is the only habitable space station as of now in the space. And initially planned for a 8-day mission, their return was delayed due to issues with the Boeing Starliner spacecraft. So the spacecraft which carried them and were supposed to bring them back, that is the Boeing Starliner aircraft, it had some propulsion issues, so it could not come back on Earth on time. So the astronauts were stuck into the space ISS, and they finally came back via SpaceX Crew Dragon. So they went by Boeing Starliner and came back by SpaceX Crew Dragon, highlighting the technological and health challenges of prolonged space travel. So when an astronaut or a person remains in space for such a long period of time, so what are the health impact that can be seen? So we will be looking into it. Now key facts about Starliner spacecraft and SpaceX Crew Dragon. So that is, first is Starliner spacecraft. It was developed by Boeing in collaboration with NASA's Commercial Crew Program and was designed to transport astronauts to and from the lower Earth orbit. Now when we talk about the lower Earth orbit, then it is from 200 kilometers to 2000 kilometers. So the range of low Earth orbit. Boeing Starliner took Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore to the ISS in 2024, but propulsion issues delayed their return and they cannot come back to Earth on time. Then about the SpaceX Crew Dragon. So the Crew Dragon is one of the two variants of SpaceX Dragon 2 spacecraft. So it has a reusable capsule and launching atop a Falcon 9 rocket. So the rocket which was used for its launch was the Falcon 9 rocket of SpaceX. It is developed under NASA's CCP and primarily ferries astronauts to the ISS. Now the NASA's SpaceX Crew 9 mission returned Williams and Wilmore from the ISS aboard the Crew Dragon spacecraft named Freedom. So the name of the spacecraft was Freedom. Now health implications of space travel. When the person remains in space for such a long period of time, what are the impact that can be seen on the health of the person? So first and foremost is the space anemia. Anemia is basically a condition where the red blood count or the red blood cells becomes very less in number. So a condition where astronauts experience a drop in the red blood cell count. Then comes second, and that is the space flight associated neuroocular syndrome. It is a vision impairment caused by fluid shift in microgravity. Vision impairment means that the person is not able to look or see things properly. Then baby feet syndrome. It refers to the hypersensitivity of the soles and difficulty in walking, because since such a long period of time the person has been in space. So when the person comes back on Earth, the astronaut or the person feels very difficult in walking, and it takes time for the person to adjust with the gravity of the Earth. Bone density loss. NASA studies show that astronauts lose around 2% of bone density per month in space. So for 1 month, if a person stays in space, around 2% of the bone density is reduced. Then comes the next topic, and that is the ransomware attack disrupts banks operation. So a ransomware attack was done recently on around 150 to 200 cooperative banks and the regional rural banks in India. And the NPCI has identified the attack. NPCI stands for the National Payment Corporation of India, and it has primarily affected banks which are serviced by the Cutting Edge Technologies Limited, which is a joint venture between the Tata Consultancy Services Limited and the State Bank of India, that is SBI. Then what is a ransomware attack? So it is basically, it targets the cutting edge technologies limited, impacting their ability to provide services to cooperative banks and RRBs. So what the ransomware does is it enters into the system and blocks the system. The system is not able to perform its function and ask for a ransom in demand. Customers of the affected banks were unable to access payment systems, including the UPI or the Aadhaar enabled payment systems. Then what is a Aadhaar enabled payment system? So it is a bank led model that allows online interoperable financial transactions at the point of sale. So financial transactions is done and it is enabled by the Aadhaar of a person. Now what is a ransomware? So it is a type of malware that encrypts a victim's data, or it locks the device of the person, demanding a ransom from the key or to regain access. Then initially ransomware attacks focused on encrypting data and demanding a ransom for the decrypting key. Now basically the software or the spyware enters into the device of the person, and then it locks the device of the person, and to unlock it demands a ransom from the person, and if the ransom is given, then the malware or the spyware or the ransomware will be removed from it. Few of the notable ransomwares are Akira ransomware, Lockbit ransomware, CryptoLocker ransomware, WannaCry ransomware. Now, what are the legislations to protect against ransomware attacks in India? So that is, the ransomware attack constitute various offenses under the Information Technology Act 2000, like for example section 43 and 66 talks about damage to computer system. Section 65 talks about tampering with computer source documents. Then section 66D talks about cheating by personation. Then cybersecurity framework for the Indian banking sector 2018 was issued by the RBI. Then comes the next topic, and that is the genetic testing in sports. Now if we talk about the genetic testing in sports, that is with regard to testing the DNA of the person. So the emergence of genetic testing in sports has gained significant attention, especially with athletes utilizing it for performance enhancement ahead of the 2024 Paris Olympics. So for the enhancement of the performance, it was seen that the athletes were using it, and this trend sparked debates about the potential benefits and the ethical concerns. So if they are getting benefits out of it, but there were ethical concerns also associated with it. Then what is genetic testing? So genetic testing involves analyzing an individual's DNA to identify the genetic variants that can influence health traits and performance of a person, because looking at the DNA of a person, the information with regard to the medical information of the person can come to forefront. So it detects alterations in chromosomes, genes or proteins of a person, or it can also confirm or exclude genetic condition and assess the livelihood of developing or transmitting genetic disorders. Then these tests can be conducted using samples from blood, hair, skin, amniotic fluid or other tissues. Then what are the different types of it? So that is cytogenetic testing, it examines whole chromosomes. Second is the biochemical testing, it measures proteins produced by genes. And third is the molecular testing, it detects small DNA mutations. So these are the three types of it. Then comes the next topic, and that is the nuclear powered trains. So the Indian Railway has explored the nuclear power trains, use of the nuclear power trains, so that the traditional use of the fossil fuels can be reduced and it can move towards the renewable energy usage. And apart from nuclear power, the railways is already in the process of commissioning solar power units and wind based power plants. So solar power and wind based power plants. Now nuclear powered trains, it talks about a nuclear power train uses heat generated from a nuclear reaction to produce high pressure steam. Nuclear reaction can be in the form of fusion or fission. Then the steam drives two turbines and Out of these two turbines, the one turbine powers the train while the other turbine generates electricity for equipment like air conditioners and lights. Then the concept of nuclear powered trains was first considered in the 1950s when it became an official goal of the USSR Ministry of Transport. And the nuclear power can also help in the reduction of the CO2 emissions because it can move away from the usage of the fossil fuels and can also help in India's achieving the goal of the carbon neutrality by 2070. And now in the end, our prelims MCQ, and like always, you people need to tell me the answer in the comments below. So the question is, in which year did the Global Polio Eradication Initiative begins its large-scale efforts to eradicate polio worldwide? And the options are 1978, 1988, 1998 or 2000. So, as we have discussed this in the video, give me the answer in the comments below. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.